Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Holistic Nootropics YouTube channel. We discuss using nootropics, biohacking, and nutrition to help you boost your cognition. In this video, I'm talking all about the differences between Ashwagandha and Rhodiola Rosea, two of the most popular adaptogenic herbal nootropics out there. Hey, what's up? It's Eric with Holistic Nootropics. In this video, I'm talking all about Ashwagandha and Rhodiola Rosea, and really the biggest differences between these two adaptogenic herbs. In the nootropics community, these are two of the most popular herbal nootropics to take because they have such profound effects on energy levels, on mood. Both have been studied extensively. They're two of the most well-researched herbal nootropics out there. Even if you're not looking for nootropic effects, these are amazing compounds for body health, for physical health, for stress relief. Before we jump into the differences between the two, let's first discuss what is an adaptogenic herb. An adaptogen or an adaptogenic herb is basically a compound that is able to modulate your HPA axis and control your body's response to stress. So your hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis is essentially the superhighway that connects your mind and your adrenal glands to control how much cortisol and norepinephrine and really in general glucocorticoids and stress hormones that your body puts out during times of stress. Of course, this varies from person to person. Some people have, regular stress responses, and that's really what you want is a normal stress response. When people hear this idea of stress response, we're always thinking like, stresses throughout the day, oh my God, traffic or work stress or relationship stress, and nowadays social media stress. But this is a response that goes on throughout the day and in effect controls your diurnal rhythm. It controls your circadian rhythm. It controls your wake-sleep cycle. The amount of cortisol that you have pumping is gonna be higher earlier in the day and lower at night so you can go to sleep. And for a lot of people, this is completely dysregulated due to any number of reasons. For a lot of people, it's a hyper-reactive stress response. For some people, they have a hypo-reactive stress response. Some people's cortisol is much higher at night, and a lot of times this gets referred to as adrenal fatigue, which is a whole other topic for a whole other video. But in essence, what that is that your body's ability to output cortisol at the right times a day is completely backwards, and this is why people experience sleep problems. Because this cortisol response can be so dysregulated, this can lead to a lot of mood disorders like anxiety, depression. For a lot of people, this takes the form of PTSD. A lot of people have other cognitive issues like ADHD because of dysregulated cortisol. So controlling cortisol and controlling stress hormones is really the magic of adaptogenic herbs. These adaptogenic herbs have been studied extensively. There's quite a bit of research on the whole suite of adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha, rhodiola. You also have herbs like the copamanieri, schisandra, also known as tulsi, also known as holy basil. There's quite a few of them out there. But in the nootropic space, ashwagandha and rhodiola really get the lion's share of the attention. So while they're both adaptogens and they both work to modulate the HPA axis, and by modulate, I really mean like control. The biggest mistake that people make with cortisol is that they think they have to shut it down. We hear cortisol in this very negative connotation. Oh, my cortisol's pumping. I got too much cortisol. Cortisol's stressing me out. I want to get rid of my cortisol. I want to lower my cortisol. And at the right times of day, it is absolutely appropriate to have lower amounts of cortisol. But cortisol is a necessary stress response. Essentially, it's your fight or flight stress response, and you need this response throughout the day, especially when you're talking about responding to emergency situations. You have to have this. You have to have cortisol to get up in the morning. A lot of people who deal with things like chronic fatigue, or even to the farthest extent of adrenal fatigue, Addison's disease, where your adrenal glands cannot output enough cortisol for your daily needs, you can't output enough cortisol to even just get up in the morning, to even just raise up out of bed. Some people, and actually a lot of people, can't even go from laying in a supine position to standing upright without getting lightheaded or dizzy. This is a major symptom of what we refer to as adrenal fatigue, adrenal insufficiency, which comes from a dysregulated HPA axis, and in some cases even a broken HPA axis. So that comes from the output, the constant output of too much cortisol throughout the day. Again, dysregulation of the HPA axis. It's not about lowering cortisol, it's about controlling cortisol to make it come out, to make it get released at the appropriate times of your day. And this is the magic of adaptogenic herbs. Adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha and rhodiola. The biggest differences between the two is really what their specialty is. What are you getting out of ashwagandha versus what are you getting out of rhodiola? Ashwagandha delivers a more sedative type response, meaning that the idea and the use of ashwagandha is to slow you down. It's very good for relaxation. It actually calms the stress response. It modulates your HPA axis, but it will slow the release of cortisol. It could make you sleepy. A lot of people like to use ashwagandha for sleep. And a big thing that it's used for, because it does have this sedative effect to where it can calm cortisol, this is actually very good for testosterone production. It's good for sexual performance. A lot of people who have sexual dysfunction, especially a lot of men who have sexual dysfunction, like to use ashwagandha because it helps get rid of the cortisol and boost testosterone. It's known as a very potent testosterone booster. Keep in mind though, this can be case specific. It really is more about bio-individuality. Not everybody's gonna have a similar response, and especially with adaptogenic herbs that are working on someone's specific HPA axis, your responses are gonna vary from person to person. The biggest complaint with ashwagandha is that for some people it might be too relaxing. It might deliver too much sedation, especially if you take it too early in the day. It could lead to more fatigue in the morning. It could lead to more fatigue throughout the day. And then of course, if you're dealing with fatigue issues in the morning, you might build this bad connection of wired and tired, meaning that you're tired in the morning, but then you're wired at night, which again goes back to HPA dysregulation. And some people might even experience sexual dysfunction or sexual problems. I've even heard this term PSSD associated with ashwagandha, but again, that's all hearsay. I've not seen the actual data on that. So ashwagandha is potent for sedation, or at least calming the nervous system. On the other hand, rhodiola is known as a more stimulatory adaptogen. So it uses the ability to modulate the HPA axis to really control the delivery of cortisol to be a more potent cortisol release to give you more energy. So a lot of people use rhodiola in the morning as opposed to ashwagandha to help boost energy. And it's even good, throughout the afternoon when you're starting to hit that, after lunch, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock slump, getting a little ashwagandha or getting a little rhodiola rosea in the system can be a good, a good substitute for that afternoon coffee. Again, everybody responds differently. Not everyone's gonna feel like this. And when you go around online and you look in different forums, if you're looking on Reddit, if you're looking on Facebook, people respond differently to these different things. So somebody might take rhodiola and say, this is an amazing nootropic, this is an amazing herb, it's giving me so much energy, I'm able to get so much more done throughout the day. And some people might take rhodiola and they might not feel anything. Historically, that's what rhodiola was used for. In fact, it gained fame in Russia years ago as being a potent herb that field workers used to use to power them throughout the day. So you can see that these two adaptogenic herbs are very different in their action. Even though they both fall under the adaptogenic herb category, they both work on the HPA axis, they both work on your body's internal stress response. Depending on the effect you're going with, you could use one or the other, either ashwagandha or rhodiola. So a big mistake that a lot of people make with these herbs is because they know that each herb has a unique benefit, they combine the two and use them simultaneously. And I personally wouldn't recommend that, only because I've had conversations with herbalists and people who work with these herbs every single day and professionally. And there's a little bit more to herbalism than just the, standard American way of taking supplements where if something is good, more is better. People have different herbal needs at different times in their life or in the year. People have these different physiological responses known as constitutions. Some people are wet, some people are dry, some people are soft, some people are hard. Some people need the stimulation, some people need the sedation, and some people don't even know that they need the stimulation or sedation. So you really need to work with an herbalist if you're going to use one of these, herbs, but definitely don't use them together. The way that I would recommend doing it is use one, either ashwagandha or rhodiola, use it for a month or 2 months, document how you feel every day, document if you've noticed any changes with that one herb or the other, and then take that herb out of your daily regimen and put in the other one. So do ashwagandha for a month or 2, see how you feel, and then do rhodiola rosea for a month or 2, see how you feel. See if you can tell the difference, because the biggest mistake that most people in the nootropics space make is they're just piling on so many different supplements all at once that you don't have a control. You can't do the experiment right if you're just throwing the kitchen sink at your brain without isolating one of the herbs to actually understand what it's actually doing. Like I said, if you want the actual breakdown and the whole list of benefits along with the scientific references to these 2 different herbs, ashwagandha and rhodiola rosea, I'll put the links to my specific articles to these 2 in the comment section below. Go on over to holisticnootropics.com and check those out. Also, if you have any thoughts on these 2 herbs, let me know down in the comments below. If you haven't done yet, please subscribe to the video. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Peace.